Welcome to the Life First Accounting Firm podcast for accountants who love their work but love their lives outside of work even more. I'm your host, Erica Goody, the 15-hour accountant. I built my own mostly solo accounting firm because I wanted balance, health, and more time with my family. In season 1 of this podcast, we're sharing real starting stories from other accountants who chose to do the same, launch their own firms in a quest for more life and freedom. So pull up a chair, settle in, and listen in to the do's, the don'ts, and the would you do it agains. Welcome to Starting Stories. Hey, welcome back. This is episode 9, the last episode of season 1 Starting Stories of the Life First Accounting Firm podcast. I'll give you a little context about this episode. As I'm recording this, just finished editing all of season 1. And I know there's lots of people who are like, why would you edit your own podcast? You can pay somebody to do that. That's a terrible use of time. It brought me joy. I wanted to edit the podcast. I wanted to go back to every single episode and I wanted to hear it again. And I wanted to hear the stories again so that I could record this episode, so that I could give a takeaway, give a recap of everything we heard this season. When I set out to record these interviews, I had a loose idea of what I thought people would say. I figured there'd be some common threads, but I didn't expect how consistent the themes would be across 7 people who have almost never met each other, who lived in completely different parts of the country or world, who built completely different kinds of firms. So that's what this episode is today. It's a recap, it's a takeaway, it's a little wrapped up gift for anyone who's been following along all season, or an entry point if you're just finding this podcast and want the highlight reel before you go back and listen to every episode in its full. So without further ado, here are the main takeaways. There's 6 of them. Here's what these solo firm starters taught me this season. Lesson 1, you don't have to quit your job to start. This might be the single most important thing I want you to take away from this entire season, because I think there's this idea floating around that starting a firm requires a dramatic moment. Like you put in your notice, you throw your badge on the table, you close your laptop for the last time, and then you figure it out. But that's not what happened for most of our guests. Steve Ney studied for his enrolled agent credential for 6 to 9 months before he ever had a client. He built his tax practice slowly over 4 years while holding down a full-time job in cybersecurity, averaging maybe 10 to 15 hours a week on his firm. Savannah Reynolds used her maternity leave to set up her LLC and get her certifications in place. Katie Rao kept her W-2 job at full hours while she was building out her first 6 clients. And her pay never went down, so she told herself, what's there to lose? Think of it as a proof of concept. 1 client, a few hours a week, just to prove to yourself that this works, that people will pay you, that you can do this before you make any big decisions in your career. The runway you give yourself by not quitting your job on day 1 is incredibly valuable, and most of the people we talk to use that runway. Lesson number 2, your first clients will come from people you already know. But they have to know what you're doing. Every single guest this season got their first clients through their personal network, not through a website, not through ads, not through a perfectly optimized LinkedIn profile, through people they already knew. But here's the part that matters. Those people knew because our guests told them, not in an over-the-top salesy kind of way, more like a, hey, fun fact, did you know what I've been working on lately? Just telling people, talking about it like it's the most normal thing in the world, because it is. Monique Reese told people at her CrossFit gym what she was doing. Logan George told people in his neighborhood. Alex Ostrov talked about his work naturally while traveling, building real relationships along the way. Nobody ran a marketing campaign. They just talked like normal people. If you're waiting until everything is perfect and everything is built out before you tell anyone, you're waiting too long. Okay, lesson 3. You might not hate accounting. You might just hate your situation. This one came up a few times, and Andrew Parks said it better than anyone. Andrew had identified as an ex-accountant by the time we spoke. He left his prior firm at full burnout, done, he thought, wrong profession, and then almost by accident, he picked up an accounting client, and he realized that he still loved the work. What he couldn't sustain was the volume, the pace, the structure of where he'd been before at his prior job. Now, maybe you do this and discover accounting really isn't the right fit for you, and that's okay too. Life happens, careers change. But before you write it off, it's worth asking whether it's the work you hate or the conditions that you've been in doing this. And here's the flip side of that, which Monique talked about really beautifully. You can serve an industry you're passionate about with a skill you're already good at. Monique does CrossFit. Her gym became a referral stream. Her niche became fitness businesses at one point. She already knew what they needed even before they asked. Your background, your hobbies, your community, those aren't separate from your firm. They can become the whole foundation of it. Lesson 4, flexibility and time are the real reward, and it's better than you imagined. This podcast exists because of this idea. And I'll tell you, hearing it reflected back from 7 different people in 7 different ways didn't get old. Savannah had talked about showing up to every school party without having to ask anyone's permission. Andrew said he watches TV shows with characters who have regular jobs and he thinks, I'm so sorry for you. Monique missed a mountain biking trip because of extension season at her day job, only to find out her firm wasn't even busy that week. That was her turning point. But I want to be clear about something because I think this is important. This podcast is specifically about building something sustainable and enjoyable. If your goal is to scale fast, build a big team, and sell to a larger firm for a big payout, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I am not condemning that. I think we need that in the industry. But there's different ways to build different firms. And there are great resources for building the big, massive firms that get sold. This just isn't the podcast for that. What we're talking about here is building something you genuinely love. Something like what Katie Rao was building. She said multiple times that she wanted to do this until she was 85, not because she has to, because she can't imagine wanting to stop doing what she's been building. That's the goal, not early retirement, building a life that you don't have to retire from early. Lesson 5, you don't have to know everything to start, but you do have to believe that it's possible. Imposter syndrome came up in almost every interview here, and it makes sense. Starting something new is vulnerable. You don't always have the answers, and you're figuring it out as you go. I know for me, nobody taught me entrepreneurship and getting an accounting degree. That was not what they covered. We learned debits and credits. We didn't learn how to start a firm. When I first started my firm, I didn't set up, this is really silly, I didn't set up a custom domain email, like a Gmail workspace. I was doing everything out of my Gmail account, my normal personal Gmail account. And the reason was that I thought, what if this doesn't work out? I didn't want to feel dumb for spinning up a professional email if it all didn't work out and it all fell apart. So I held back, I saved the $8 a month and used my personal Gmail. And years later, I had to unwind all of that. Every account, every login, every client communication, all of it was attached to my personal Gmail address because I hadn't fully believed it was going to work. In retrospect, $60 a year was a pretty cheap price to test an entire career. The cost of not believing in yourself is almost always higher than the thing you're avoiding. Okay, here's our last one. Lesson 6, the financial backstop. The financial backstop is the thing nobody explicitly talked about in their interviews, but it matters. Logan talked about keeping a full year of living expenses saved before he bought his practice. Savannah had an ongoing contractor arrangement with her former employer, easing cash flows as she got started. Steve had his W-2 running in the background for years and still does. Katie was working full-time when she started building out her client base. When you're not worried about putting food on the table next week, everything about how you run your business changes. You can be selective about clients. You can take time to do the work right. You can absorb a slow month without panicking. You can iterate as things change rapidly in the industry. I'm not saying you can't start without a safety net. People do. But I think it's worth being honest that most of the guests this season had something cushioning them. A spouse's income, months of savings, a day job still running in the background, and that cushion gave them the freedom to build the right way instead of the desperate way. If you're thinking about starting, think about your runway. 3 months, 6 months, 12 months of expenses covered, whatever you can build toward. It changes everything about how you'll make decisions in your business when you get started. So here's my final parting thought of this last episode of the season. 7 people, 7 completely different paths, different credentials, different niches, different motivations, different firm models, but the same discovery over and over that it's possible, that it was worth it, that the life you're imagining, the one with more time, more control, more joy in the actual work, is not a fantasy. And while firm ownership surely isn't for everybody, and there's nothing wrong with that, it is for some people, and it is the solution for some people. And people are living it right now. That's what Starting Stories was about. Real stories from real people, so you don't have to wonder if it's possible. It is. Thank you so much for being here on season 1 of the Life First Accounting Firm podcast. I hope something you heard this season stays with you or encourages you or even discourages you, because we want you to make the next right decision for you. If you think this season helped you, if you think it could help somebody else, pass along your favorite episode to an accounting friend or someone who might need a little encouragement. If you really loved it, leave any kind of review wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps the word get out of this podcast immensely, and I would really appreciate it. Again, thank you for being here on this inaugural season of the podcast. I'm rooting for you. Until next time. Hey, it's Erica again. Thanks for joining us today. If you want more stuff like this, subscribe to the 15-Hour Accountant newsletter. You can find the link to subscribe in the show notes. Special thanks to everyone who helped bring this podcast to life. This podcast is produced and edited by the 15-Hour Accountant. All design work is by Lou Valdivieso. The music you're hearing right now in the background is called Destination Freedom by Avocado Junkie. Until next time, work well, live well.